Caitlin Clark. No, hell no. She let Aaliyah Boston play. And so we kind of could figure that, but what occurred before the game let me know everything I need to know about Stephanie White and this Caitlin Clark situation. See, three Indiana.
That right there tells you everything. Aaliyah Boston played 38 minutes tonight. Kelsey Mitchell took over 30 shots, and Stephanie White suddenly remembered how to coach a close game. Funny how that works when one specific player isn't on the floor.
She played 38 minutes. She did not do to Aaliyah Boston what she did to Caitlin Clark. And just like I told you guys, that's everything you need to know when it comes to Stephanie White. Everything you need to know. I'm going to be honest with you. So Aaliyah Boston had
21 points, 9 rebounds, 1 turnover. Aaliyah Boston put up an elite two-way performance in a must-win game against Phoenix, and the Fever coaching staff let her play through every critical possession down the stretch. No mysterious fourth-quarter benching. No unexplained rotation that kills momentum. Just competent, logical basketball decisions that helped Indiana survive an 11-1 run and close out a game they were losing with under 3 minutes left. Now here's what makes this fascinating. The Fever just came off getting embarrassed by San Antonio the night before. 27 fast break points allowed, a blowout loss that looked like a team with zero defensive discipline. And tonight, less than 24 hours later, they hold Phoenix under 90, limit them to 4 fast break points, and grind out a win in a game that went down to the final possession.
Sophie Cunningham came back with a vengeance, bro. Look at the Sophster. Sophie, bro. I really hope Sophie remains with Caitlin Clark. If Caitlin Clark leave, I hope Sophie find her way to go back with her. I just love their connection. I love their duo. One thing about Sophie, she gonna stand on business and do everything she need to do to be a great teammate.
Sophie Cunningham with a veteran move that sealed it. She understood the bonus situation, she understood the clock, and she sold that push like her contract depended on it. That's basketball IQ at the highest level. And the Fever needed every bit of it because this game was chaos for 3.5 quarters. But let's talk about what happened before tip-off, because that context matters more than the box score. 3 Indiana congressmen signed a proposal demanding Kathy Engelbert testify before Congress about the assault on Caitlin Clark. That's not sports drama anymore. That's a federal investigation into whether the league is protecting its players or protecting a narrative. And the timing of this game, coming right after that news broke, put the Fever organization in a position where losing to Phoenix again would have looked like the ultimate disrespect to their franchise cornerstone.
She looked it well filling in for Caitlin Clark. Now, Kelsey Mitchell. Kelsey Mitchell made an idiotic foul when it was under a minute left. I thought that was it. Once Kelsey Mitchell fouled Khalil Copper, I'm like, that is the game. Come to find out, it wasn't. They drew up a play like they always do because we already know Stephanie.
Ty Harris caught some heat on social media during the game for a couple of shot clock violations, but she finished with 20 points filling in for Caitlin Clark. That's a legitimate offensive contribution. Kelsey Mitchell went for 29 on 22 shots, and while that efficiency isn't great, she hit the clutch bucket when it mattered. The Fever drew up in isolation, forced Phoenix to overcommit, and Mitchell finished through contact at the rim. Textbook execution in a half-court set. So on paper, this looks like a solid team win. Role players stepped up, the star post player dominated, and the coaching staff made adjustments after a terrible defensive performance the night before. That's the story you're supposed to take away from this game. Except there's a pattern forming that's impossible to ignore now.
21 points. She was 9 of 16 from the field, 3 of 5 from 3, which is outstanding. 9 rebounds, 0 assists, 1 damn turnover. How many turnovers did they have as a team? Lexi Hall had 10 points. Sophie had 9. KK played 15 minutes. She didn't have no points, but she made a lot of defensive plays. That one block that she had at the end was very critical in the Indiana Fever winning this game.
Kelsey Mitchell had 8 assists tonight. 8. That's a career-type playmaking game for someone who's primarily a scorer. KK Arnold played 15 minutes, didn't score, but had a critical block late that helped preserve the lead. Monique Billings barely played. The rotation was tight, the minutes distribution made sense for a close game, and Stephanie White rode her best players when the pressure was highest. All of that sounds normal until you remember what happened the last time these two teams played. Caitlin Clark was on the floor for that game, and the Fever's approach was completely different. The rotations were erratic, the defensive schemes left Clark exposed to physical play that crossed the line. And when the game got out of hand, there was no adjustment, no accountability, no visible plan to protect the player who's carrying the entire league's ratings on her back. Tonight, with Clark out, the Fever suddenly looked like a competent professional basketball team with a functional coaching staff.
See this, but it seemed like when it comes to her coaching, when Caitlin's not playing, she just do something a little different. It's like she getting a little different type of mode or something. Is it me or am I tripping? Because I damn sure been feeling that way. But get down in the comment section. Let me know y'all thoughts about this. I will be back with more content because there is a lot to talk.
That's the question that keeps coming up. When Caitlin Clark isn't playing, does Stephanie White coach differently? Not intentionally, maybe. But the results speak for themselves. The defensive effort was there tonight. The rotations were logical. The best players got the minutes and the touches they needed to win a tight game. And the Fever came out of a back-to-back with enough discipline to execute down the stretch. Compare that to the games where Clark is on the floor and getting hammered off ball while the coaching staff watches like it's a scrimmage. Compare it to the fourth quarter benching in games where she's the only reason they're competitive. Compare it to the complete lack of offensive sets designed to get her clean looks instead of forcing her to create everything in isolation against physical defenses that know the refs aren't calling fouls. The contrast is stark, and it's not just one game. It's a pattern that's been building all season.
Herself, Sophie damn Cunningham, for having an incredible basketball IQ. Sophie IQ is up there, bro. I know it is. For Sophie to understand they was in the bonus, for Sophie to understand where she was at the time of the foul to allow her.
Sophie Cunningham's basketball IQ won this game. That's a fact. She made the winning play because she understood the situation better than anyone else on the floor in that moment. But let's also recognize that Sophie has been one of the few players in this league who's consistently had Caitlin Clark's back when things get physical. The two of them have a connection that goes beyond basketball, and if Clark ends up leaving Indiana when her contract situation allows it, don't be surprised if Sophie finds a way to follow her, because that's the other layer to all of this. The Fever are winning games without their best player, which should be a positive development. It should show depth. It should prove they're not a one-woman team. But instead, it's raising questions about whether the coaching staff is actually better equipped to manage a roster without the pressure and attention that comes with having the biggest star in women's basketball history.
Coaching staff, because this was another horrendous coaching performance by Stephanie White. I will say that. And yeah, man, let's pull up the box score, look and see how they did. Just like I told you guys, it was not a pretty win, not at all. But hell, a dub is a dub. They had to win this game.
Stephanie White is on the hot seat nationally right now. That's not speculation. The performance this season, the way games have been managed, the defensive schemes that consistently leave Clark vulnerable, and now the congressional inquiry into player safety have all put a spotlight on the Fever's coaching decisions. And tonight's win doesn't change that. If anything, it makes the question sharper. Why can this team execute a defensive game plan against Phoenix, but not against San Antonio the night before? Why does the rotation suddenly make sense when Clark isn't playing? Why does Aaliyah Boston get 38 minutes and the green light to dominate when the franchise player is sitting, but in other games the offense runs through contested isolations and broken sets? The Fever had to win this game. Losing to Phoenix again, right after 3 congressmen demanded answers about player safety, would have been a PR disaster that the organization couldn't recover from. And they got the win. But the way they got it, and the contrast between tonight's coaching and what we've seen in other games, is raising more questions than it's answering.
And I want to apologize to Ty Harris, not Kelsey Mitchell, because Ty Harris got into certain situations where I don't know if she just lost track of the shot clock or what, but she had some shot clock cheese, bro. She definitely did. But it's cool because she balled out. I think she down there had 20 points.
Kelsey Mitchell made what looked like a game-losing foul with under a minute left. She reached in on Cleo Copper in a situation where Phoenix was already in the bonus, and it felt like the Fever had just handed the game away. But they drew up a play out of the timeout. Mitchell got downhill, finished through contact, and tied the game. That's clutch. That's the kind of execution that wins playoff games. But here's the thing. The Fever have players who can execute in high-pressure situations. They have the talent to win close games against good teams. They have a post player in Aaliyah Boston, who's one of the best two-way bigs in the league. They have shooters, playmakers, and defenders. The roster isn't the problem. So when the coaching looks this different depending on who's on the floor, it's fair to ask what's really going on. Is it a stylistic thing? Is it pressure? Is it the media attention that follows Caitlin Clark making it harder to manage the team? Or is there something deeper happening that we're only seeing glimpses of when the rotation changes?
Points. She was 3 of 7 from the field. She had 6 rebounds, 3 turnovers, But yeah, man, Raven Johnson looked the trash today, guys. I just got to keep it real. She definitely did. Let's pull up the team stats. I want to know how many turnovers did they have. So they had 12 turnovers. Them and the Mercury had 12. Now, how many points were scored inside the paint today since the league?
Raven Johnson had a rough game. 6 points on 3 of 7 shooting, 3 turnovers, and a defensive performance that didn't match her reputation. She played 23 minutes and looked lost on both ends for most of them. That happens. Players have bad games. But in a contest this tight where every possession mattered, Johnson's struggles put more pressure on the veterans to carry the load. And they did. That's the encouraging part. The Fever found a way to win even when one of their rotation players wasn't contributing. They leaned on Boston, Mitchell, and Cunningham, and those three delivered when it mattered most. That's what good teams do. But it also highlights the margin for error. The Fever can't afford many games where a key rotation player disappears, especially not in the playoffs. And if the coaching staff is going to rely on tight rotations and veteran execution in close games, then every player who's on the floor has to be ready to produce. Tonight, they got away with Johnson's off night because Boston and Mitchell were elite. That won't always be the case.
What a game we just seen tonight, guys. And look, I ain't gonna hold you. I damn near boycotted this one, but something in my spirit told me to watch it. And I watched this one here, and boy, oh boy, I was like this all game on the edge of my seat. I was like this all game.
The energy in this game was different from the start. You could feel it. This wasn't just another regular season matchup. This was a statement game, whether the Fever wanted it to be or not. The congressional inquiry, the rematch with Phoenix after the controversial last meeting, the back-to-back schedule, and the absence of Caitlin Clark all combined to create a situation where the Fever had to prove something. And they did. They proved they can win without their best player. They proved they can execute a defensive game plan when the stakes are high. They proved they have enough talent and experience to close out a tight game on the road after a tough loss the night before. But they also proved something else. They proved that the coaching staff is capable of making the right decisions when the pressure is on and the attention is focused, which makes every other game, every other rotation decision, every other defensive breakdown feel even more questionable.
This game, but Kelsey Mitchell went down there and she scored for a drawn up play. She drew all the defenders her way, made them go right. They created some space. She went to the basket, up and over. So shout out to them for that. It was not a pretty win at all. Then Indiana Fever went on an 11-0 run in the fourth quarter when it was under 3 minutes left. They was losing this game, but over.
The Fever went on an 11-1 run in the fourth quarter to take back a game they were losing. That's not luck. That's not just talent. That's execution, discipline, and coaching. Stephanie White called the right plays, made the right substitutions, and put her team in position to win. The players delivered, but the structure was there. So why doesn't that structure exist in every game? Why does it feel like the Fever are two different teams depending on the night, the opponent, or the lineup? That's the question that's going to follow this team for the rest of the season, and potentially into the off-season if things don't improve. Because the talent is there. The roster is good enough to compete for a championship. Caitlin Clark is the best player in the league. Aaliyah Boston is an all-star caliber big, and they have enough shooting and defense around them to win games. But the consistency isn't there. The trust isn't there. And after tonight, the questions about coaching decisions are only going to get louder.
Mitchell attacking and lays it in. Mitchell
that was
puts the Fever in.
Now that right there was incredible from Kelsey Mitchell at the end, man. We spoke about this at the beginning part of the video. She made everybody shift right.
The Fever scored 42 points in the paint tonight. That's solid interior production, especially against a Phoenix team that's built to defend the rim. They moved the ball, attacked gaps, and got high percentage looks when they needed them. The offensive execution was clean enough to win, even if it wasn't pretty. But compare that to the 27 fast break points they gave up to San Antonio the night before. That's a 35-point swing in transition defense over 2 games. That's not a personnel issue. That's an effort and discipline issue. And the fact that the Fever could fix it in 24 hours proves they're capable of playing the right way when they lock in. Which brings us back to the same question. If this team can defend, execute, and close out games when they're focused, why does it only happen sometimes? Why do we see this version of the Fever in some games and a completely different, undisciplined version in others? The answer might be coaching. It might be leadership. It might be the pressure that comes with managing the most scrutinized team in women's basketball. But whatever it is, it's real, and it's affecting results.
When Caitlin Clark don't play, Stephanie White coaches the team a little different. Now, I'm not saying that she's doing this on purpose, but hell, it looked pretty damn spooky the way she coached when Caitlin Clark is not playing. It looked very, very, very different. So this is Sophie Cunningham. I gotta see.
Caitlin Clark is coming back. That's the expectation. She's not injured long term, and the Fever need her if they're going to make a real playoff run. But after tonight, there's a legitimate question about what happens when she returns. Does the coaching staff go back to the inconsistent rotations and questionable defensive schemes? Does Aaliyah Boston suddenly lose minutes and touches because the offense is running through Clark? Do the role players who stepped up tonight get pushed back into smaller roles? Or does Stephanie White find a way to integrate everyone into a functional system? Those are the questions that will define the rest of Indiana's season. Because if tonight was a fluke, if the Fever go back to being the team that gives up 27 fast break points and can't execute down the stretch, then this win doesn't matter. It's just one game in a season full of missed opportunities. But if tonight was a turning point, if the coaching staff learned something about how to manage this roster and put players in position to succeed, then maybe the Fever can build on this and become the team they're supposed to be. The talent is there, the pieces fit. The question is whether the leadership can put it all together before it's too late. So, what do you think? Is Stephanie White coaching differently when Caitlin Clark isn't on the floor, or is this just a coincidence? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you want to see more breakdowns like this, hit the like button and subscribe so you don't miss the next one, because this story is far from over.